I would like to talk to you now about disruptive and sustaining technologies, because these are quite important concepts, and this is certain ideas that Clay Christensen introduced, and it really addresses the question, when is it the case that a firm that with one particular technology and is right now the market leader gets displaced by a new entrant with a next generation of technology? Or when is it the case that the leading firm can sort of sustain its competitive advantage in the next generation? Let's maybe first talk about sustaining technological innovation. And a sustaining technological innovation can be thought about as follows. So imagine what we have here. On this axis we have time, and on this axis we measure the performance of a particular product. And for a particular generation of this product, right, sort of performance increases over time. And now a new generation of this product comes onto the market, and it sustains this performance trajectory. And maybe then a new technology comes onto the market and it sustains that trajectory even further. That's what Clay would call a sustaining technological innovation. And quite often what is the case is that the firm who is the leader in this particular generation is also able to sustain its leadership in the next generation. Why is that the case? Well, right, it is this firm here, the market leader, that has lots of resources to pump back into R&D. That firm has the relationships with customers. And so it is quite often easier for that firm to sustain its competitive advantage than it is for new firms to come in. Now, a different way to think about sustaining technologies is as follows. We quite often think about technologies improve along an S-curve, where initially it is maybe hard to improve, then there's a period in which this technology improves quite a bit, and then at some point we are petering out. We've squeezed everything out of this particular technology. Then of course, hopefully there's sort of this next technology that comes along, and basically what a sustaining technological innovation is that we are jumping from one S-curve sort of to the next S-curve. That's a sustaining technological innovation. So now let's talk about disruptive technological innovations. So disruptive technological innovations are different. What we have here is the following. So again, we have this graph, and down here we have time. Here we have our existing technology. Now a disruptive technological innovation enters here. Now, one wonders, right, why would anyone buy this technology? Because, right, it is less on this particular performance dimension. But now the question is, right, how do we actually measure performance? And as you can imagine, right, there are multiple ways of how we can measure performance of a particular product. So let's think about hard drives, for instance, right? Hard drives, on the one hand, there's sort of storage capacity. On the other hand, there's maybe physical size. Now, which performance metric do we want to use here? We probably want to use the performance metric that is most valued by the current mass market. Think about it, it's that element in the willingness to pay function, right, that has sort of the highest weight by the current mass market. So let's say for hard drives, this might be storage capacity. But there may be a certain segment in the market that really likes size. For instance, right, if you are a laptop manufacturer, then you really care about the size. If you're a mainframe guy, you maybe not care so much about the size. Okay. So now some people are buying this particular technology because it is better on some other dimension. Now up to this point, what we've talked about basically is a niche product, right? It's a product that has some interesting little feature that some segment of the market likes a lot. For this, however, to become disruptive, of course, what has to happen? What has to happen is that actually customers who are currently buying this product start to switch. So when will this happen? Now here comes another interesting insight. What we want to think about is yet another curve. And this curve is really, what do customers really want? Now a different way we might think about this is the following. Think about if on this axis we are graphing performance, and on this axis we graph our good friend willingness to pay. How does this graph look like? Well, clearly, right, it will be sort of upward sloping, but will it be like a straight line going up? I mean, that's what our engineers would love to think, right? Always more is better. But I think this graph will look more like this, right? Where at some point right? Even if the performance increases, the differences in willingness to pay are not that much. If my microprocessor runs 3.9 gigahertz or 4.3 gigahertz, I really don't care that much, right? My word processing runs about the same way. So what makes this particular product disruptive is the following. If the set of customers who like this particular feature is large, then this firm is going to make lots of sales. They make revenues, and those revenues they can plow back into R&D and to improve the product, not only on this other dimension, but also on this dimension, which the mass market likes. So at some point, right, this product will also improve along this dimension. When does now disruption occur? Disruption occurs when this line sort of crosses this dotted line. This to me is actually the really fundamental insight. Disruption occurs not when the new product becomes better than the old product. Disruption already occurs when the new product becomes good enough. That's actually a very hard lesson to learn, particularly for firms who are always thinking about themselves as the leader in technologies. Because they might say, well, these new entrants, they'll come in, but they'll never be better than us. And that might be actually correct, but that's not relevant. The question is, will the new entrant become good enough? The other interesting thing about this whole disruptive technology issue is that this quite often is an organizational problem. It's not a technological problem. So quite often, the company here that has this leading product, they quite often have this new disruptive technology lying on the shelf of their R&D department. But what happens? Well, let's think this through. So imagine the R&D department of this leading firm figures out this new technology. And they say, look, that's kind of odd, right? It's kind of interesting little feature. I have no idea whether there's a market out there for this. So the R&D department throw this over to sales. All right, so now our sales person has this new technology in their briefcase, and at the end of a sales call with their existing customer, they say, oh, do you have 2 more minutes? Let me pull this out here. My R&D guys have asked me to evaluate this. So do you like this? And what will our existing customers tell us? Well, they laugh us out of the room, right? Because they say, look, this is what I need, this is what your current product gives me, and this is just not good enough. So no, I really don't like this. Okay, so our salesperson realizes existing customers really don't like it. Maybe there are some new customers out there who might like this product because it has this sort of interesting little other feature. But do I really want to spend my extra hour finding some customer who might want to buy this product? And quite often this product has lower margins than this product up here. Or do I want to spend sort of my marginal hour having dinner with my existing customer here and maybe try to sell him one more unit of my high margin product? So incentives are skewed quite against finding new customers for this product. So the salespeople will throw this back to R&D and say, sorry, can't really find new customers and our existing customers really don't like it. Okay, so now R&D huddles, right? The head of R&D says, oh, look at this, we need to improve this. Do you think we can improve this? Well, they're engineers. Of course they say, of course we can improve this. Just give us money and we can improve this. But of course they also say, look, if you give us that money, we can also improve our existing technology. And so what might actually be the case is that these lines never cross. So what does this mean? It means that actually this new technology here will never be better than the old technology. So now the head of R&D says, okay, what are you telling me? Our current customers don't like it. And if we invest sort of the same amount, this new technology will never be better than our old technology. Now that doesn't sound like a winner to me. Put it back on the shelf. So now what happens, right? A year and a half later, right, customers are starting to switch to this new product. Of course, now our salespeople become really angry with the customers. Say, what do you do, right? I showed you this thing a year and a half ago and you didn't want it. Now you're all of a sudden switching away from me to buy this from our competitor? And of course, the customers will say, well, now it's good enough, but a year and a half, the thing that you showed me, that was really not good enough. So now our salespeople are yelling back to R&D and say, you remember that thing you showed us a year and a half ago? We need that tomorrow. But now we are 1.5 years behind, right? We are 1.5 years behind on the learning curve, and it might be very, very difficult for us to catch up. So this is kind of an interesting story, and we've seen it actually in hard drives a number of times. Whenever there was a sustaining development where basically right, this new technology was just sustaining this technological trajectory, actually the leading firm in one generation was able to sustain their advantage in the next generation. So when, for instance, there was a switch from 3.5-inch hard drives to 2.5-inch hard drives, so the leading firm in 3.5 became the leading firm in 2.5. But in prior generations, when actually the new one came in here, not as good on this performance dimension, but much better on the size dimension, we saw kind of this change. So this is, I think, another nice example of this problem of perception, right? Because it is not a technological issue, it's a perception issue. This new entrant comes in, and we don't consider it to be really a big threat to us. And that's what makes disruptive technologies sometimes so deadly.